is better than it's ever been. So best time in the music industry, best time for working cross-functionally within Spotify is getting us what we really need. It's the excitement about a new artist signing or the performance of somebody that's on tour in Latin America. Any little detail that we can get that is inspirational to our team, we want it and we will support it.
So the more you can
we don't
show,
want a gate.
the more you can show
Yeah.
how you're supporting an artist and a song,
Yep.
the easier it is to get the curator's
Yeah.
passion for the song.
We don't want to miss anything.
Cool.
We don't want to miss anything.
So we have a diverse group here. Where do you guys see streaming in the order of infrastructure for a label, an independent label? Is it the most important thing? Is it second behind marketing and touring? Is it third behind radio? Where does it fit today in your views?
For a label of my size, I think it's about, on the same level as touring and marketing, with radio probably coming behind it. I mean, radio can have a huge impact once we get there, but I look at it as a second tier once we really built that the track is responding and there are a lot of people coming to shows, the data is there, the streaming is there, the sales are there, the press is there. So for us, as we're rolling out songs and tracks for artists, Spotify is such a huge part of that initial campaign. And it's not just hoping that Spotify curation is going to love a track and put it on a bunch of playlists. It's, how can we work on driving people in there? So can we do pre-save campaigns and other marketing campaigns that are driving our biggest fans in there and getting them to save the song or save the song on playlists to make sure they're going to continue playing it and that they're sharing it so that they're, showing immediately there's going to be plays and there's going to be good stats on the song to kind of, work the algorithm to some degree. So that it's not just kind of showing up there and we're hoping Spotify is going to do all the work for us off the bat.
We also, I think if you have a marketing department, you have a radio department, and you can't really think of it as a digital department or a streaming department. I feel like you almost need to think of it as a Spotify department, and you need a whole different approach when it comes to YouTube, and you need a whole different approach when it comes to Apple. These companies are structured differently, and they're going to continue to be structured differently. And the next one down the pike would probably be Amazon. We're super excited about streaming continuing to scale with voice activation devices, which I think will benefit all the streaming services with their tie-ins to that infrastructure. But what I think we've seen historically is that the early adopters into streaming services were more focused in dance and hip-hop and pop, and there were other genres that frankly were unloved because of who the consumer was, and smaller independent labels who were focused in other genres hadn't really transitioned to streaming. Whether it's jazz or blues or rock music, metal, and with these voice activation devices, I heard somebody describe it as an iPod moment, where we're about to see just another explosion in music consumption, because when there are 100 million voice activation devices in every kitchen and living room and car that you can just talk to and say, play me the song that goes dit, dit, dit. You don't even need to have the name of the artist or the name of the song, and your streaming service, whether it's Amazon itself or whether it's Spotify or Apple or whatever, starts playing you that song. There's no friction there, and so many more consumers who aren't the first into streaming services are going to be brought into that format, and that's going to be explosive for some of these genres that, and a lot of music that just hasn't really taken off in streaming. We're super excited about that.
So your NewCo relative to Beggars. Beggars has 150, 60 employees. How many do you have?
3.
Okay. And you're now, what are your plans over the next year or two as far as structure and employees?
So we're doubling our staff. We're doubling how many full releases we put out in 2018, and then we're growing into UK and the European market in a more direct way with a new office there. And then we're also starting a singles label as well that'll be bringing in more one-offs or one-off EPs from artists that we can do more of digital campaigns for and see where the traction is and what artists we want to bring up to the full label. And that's because, I'm kind of at this point, even as a label with as small a catalog as mine, having been around for 5, 6, 7 years now, I'm seeing the benefits of a catalog, but also of streaming, where I have artists that I put out on TuneCore from before I officially really started the label in full, who the songs are on Coffee House playlists, and now they're at 30, 40, 45 million streams. And these are essentially inactive tracks that we're not investing into that are, bringing in revenue. And, so we're seeing that, even for a label as small as us, we really need to grow that catalog as much as possible because there's so much kind of opportunity in front of us here.
So let's talk about catalog. I think it's very important that the degree of income that comes in from catalog as to frontline is really discussed, because I think two things. One, one of the problems with indie labels is the ability to invest in what you're doing. I think streaming is going to change the playing field to a great degree, because as you build a catalog, as you were suggesting, you've got that income coming in, and that allows you to build infrastructure. To me, catalog is important for two reasons. One is it keeps your artist at top of mind with the consumer. And two, it lets you see how things are changing. You're not looking in the rearview mirror, you're looking through the windshield. And we found in our company, we've exponentially grown the company. We've gone from 10, 15 people to 40 people. It's catalog that allows us to do it. So what are the percentages of catalog at Spotify versus new music?
You mean overall release,
Yeah.
as far as the content?
Mm-hmm.
I honestly don't know the answer to that question.
Okay. What I've heard,
I can make a phone
I'm asking
call.
you because I didn't want to.
Jen, do you know?
I didn't want to blow it, but I believe it's a very.
It's 33.7%.
So what I've heard is it's a negligible amount. New releases
All right.
is something like 7 to 10%, and catalog is 90.
I can speak to this because
Oh, good.
catalog, I'm going to speak again, not about percentages, but
Yeah.
about what we're talking about right now with regards to catalog. Especially in the North American team right now, there's a lot of talk about how we super serve and pay more attention to catalog rather than just having a decades category in browse. I think that it's a hugely important part of streaming, as you said. I think you're right on the money. It's large, it's material, it can be reactivated, it's hyper relevant. I think we've nailed the millennial audience, and I think, speaking as an older demo Spotify employee, I would like to grow the upper demos, and we're going to do that through catalog. And that you're going to see a lot more focus on that in a more organized fashion. So the percentage existing on the service, although I don't know the actual answer to that question, I can tell you that the percentage of catalog that we will be focusing on is going to grow exponentially in the months and years to come.
Which will be great for everyone, whether it's a catalog that's a few years old or a catalog that's 20 or 30 years
I
old.
think from where we're seeing it, I mean, we're seeing a lot of action on catalogue, but you've got to remember that, however many tracks we put out as an industry every week, there's 30 million tracks already in existence, which people, know a fair portion of and are played. So you've got to understand that with catalogue. For us, we're seeing somewhere around 60 or 70% of our streaming revenues coming from catalogue, which is a fair chunk. I think thinking about how this affects us all as a business, like you say, I think it smooths out, a lot of our revenue streams. It used to be really lumpy. You get a new release out, you get a big spike, it'll drop off very quickly. You have bits of activity. Now that revenues are going smooth like that, which is on the surface, great, it should be fine in the longer term, but I think what we do have also is real cash flow and return on our investment. Whereas before we'd be getting those big spikes of a new release, we'd be getting a return on our investment, in the first sort of like 6 to 12 months, depending on your structure with your distributor and your payment terms and all those kind of things. You kind of know that's when it's happening. I think now we're seeing a return on our investment. To get that same return, we're seeing that over maybe 4 to 5 years. Now that's a long time for independent companies to go without seeing the return that they invested, probably a year before the actual music came out. So I think bridging that gap, now we're building up some volume, it's feeling better, the money's flowing through, it's definitely helping. But I think we're still not at that point where everyone's feeling comfortable about the cash flow. And I think that is still a really big issue for the independent community, is keeping things going while it's all building up to a point where we can feel it's sustainable. And we're not quite there yet. And I'm sure you as a smaller label are feeling it much more.
It's scale. It's got a scale. And so far, when you talk about 100 million and there's 5 billion phones, we
Tip of
haven't
the
scaled
iceberg.
yet.
Yeah. I think, and new release will so easily promote catalog in a streaming environment because you don't need to go find where the last CD was in your collection. You can immediately go straight to all the catalog when, as a consumer, when you see a new release come in. And I think one of the best practices we work with our labels on is making sure that they have discography playlists, and you kind of optimize your artist profile, because fans will go and they'll play those playlists all day long and go through an entire artist's catalog. The labels that master that start to see a ton of that recurring revenue from catalog. It's huge.
So you touched earlier on voice activation and the speakers, and I'm glad you did. It was one of my questions. I think we have a great opportunity right now with what's happening and the evolution of streaming to take advantage of 3 of the streaming platforms. I think Apple shot themselves in the foot by deciding hip-hop, EDM, and pop would be their focus. Looks like Amazon wants to hit a different demo. They, according to what they've said to me, they're talking about rock and country being the dominant streamed music by far. They're not even suggesting that it's even close. I tried to get percentages, but they won't tell me. But what they're saying is classic rock, alternative rock, indie rock are huge opportunities for us. And then you've got the wonderful world of Spotify that has, I hate to compliment you, but they've led the way. Martin and Daniel, early on as founders, wanted indie music to succeed. They felt, and their gut was right, that indie music is the demo that will stick around. We index 50% higher with credit cards than pop, hip-hop, and EDM music. By embracing that, Spotify they have no credit cards. They have to go get them. Apple, Amazon have billions of credit cards. And the conversion of those credit cards say it all. So when you look at the different streaming platforms and you see that Apple, with all that opportunity, just hit 27 million, and Spotify's sitting at 50 plus another 50 that are free, you look at that and you, as an indie, need to see where you want to lean in and which one is the easier platform to work with. And to Spotify's credit, and this is what I want to talk about next, is they've taken a real serious look at the indie community and are building out a whole division that gives us a seat at the table. I think it's a group of 10, maybe 20, I don't know how much, but they're seriously investing in your ability to succeed. And they've supported us forever to the point where now Apple is deciding they better engage with the indie community. The conversations I've been having with Amazon are much different than they were 3 months ago. So how do we, in a general sense, engage with the new seat at the table we have? That Jen, who used to be at A2IM, is supposed to rah-rah for us. And we never had that before, and we've got it. How do we use that in the most efficient way?
I'm going to change my name to Jen here, should I? I mean, well, I know that there's a lot of initiatives that Jen's, it's great to have her on board, by the way, really amazing. Breaking out her team into genres and specialties so to better, more efficiently communicate between editorial and label services is huge. Just her knowledge of the industry and of this group specifically is massively important to our team globally. We get insights on a different level from her team. It's great. I think we understand at Spotify, and I will say Jen understands, so I'll keep calling you out as long as we're giving compliments. We understand the importance for both sides of bidirectional communication, bidirectional A&R, bidirectional marketing information. That communication is what we thrive on, and I think that the new seat at the table, as you say, it's dependent upon that, and I think we've never been better at it than we are right now. It's still growing too. I think there's a lot of submission things that we're working on, perfecting more policies, more information exchange that's a little more efficient. You know, having said that though, even the way it is right now with each editor having kind of their own submission and review process, you know, I said I was talking to John this morning, who does like the biggest independent playlists in the world right now for our company. He says he listens to everything he gets, you know, and if we can actually make that more streamlined so that we're sharing information way earlier, you are sharing information way earlier, and we're sending feedback and signals, and you're getting it through your own access to data, it's going to get better just through your seat at the table, as you put it, through that bidirectional information exchange. And I think one thing I will say again, I'll repeat myself, getting us involved super early and sharing your excitement and sharing information about what your priorities are and little things like a tour that's coming or some kind of reaction in a market, it just informs us. You know, we don't get pitched, you know what I mean? Even though it's pitching, we get information and music and we listen to it all the time and we're very excited about it. And we're not judging or scheduling meetings based on, you know, you trying to impress any member of the team. We are doing it to get stuff early and get excited about it.
Again, you're feeding the consumer, so you need that to get your credit card.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
We don't build these major brands and minor brands of playlists without the consumer's trust. We call ourselves on the curation team the elected officials of the Spotify user base. So we live or die, and those playlists live or die based on what the audience thinks.
So
They
let's
drive
define-
it. It's not us. It's the audience that drives it.
Let's define super early. What would super early?
I think even there's been really exciting moments when a record is in production, and you know people have been brought into the picture. It's exciting for us. I mean, we're all music freaks. You know, we love that. I mean, I worked in studios. I want to see what's going on. We have our own studio in New York. I love to walk in and watch the sessions. If you're excited about it, we're going to be excited too. So, demos, I don't know.
I know this.
When the minute the song's been written, just call us. And
So I'm going to give a firsthand account of how true that is. I didn't know Allison Hagendorf at all. Went to a meeting in LA, played a bunch of music, and she has been the person going out across the world, getting all the curators to engage with this music. And we've had to do absolutely nothing. She loves the music and it's reacting. So the data just supports what happened there. But everyone in this room doesn't have an LA office, a New York office, a Berlin office, a UK office. How would they go to Jen's team, share that excitement, and have them move it around? How would that work?
How would Jen work?
Yeah.
You could work with an independent distributor, like
Yes.
ADA. But no, I think seriously, there are plenty of independent distributors out there who help to navigate that process. I think it's really hard for a one-person, two-person, three-person label or an artist and manager who are working on their own together to have that conversation, have that seat at the table. For an ADA or any of our competitors, we're trying to be that voice and try to use some best practice to help in that journey. And another thing to keep in mind is, if John Stein's listening to everything he gets, you only get so many swings at bat when you really have a priority. So we think of things almost, I guess, in three tiers. On the one hand, we want to deliver, like literally, supply chain deliver the content as seamlessly as we can so that that's just a no-brainer, so that everything gets in on time to all the services, cleanly and perfectly. The next tier would be the priorities, a priority track, a priority project that really warrants an earlier conversation. And then there's probably that really tip of the pyramid where it's something truly special, where it could be quite early in the process to have that conversation. And we've found, Doug's team and obviously Jen has been, a huge supporter of all of our roster on the ADA side. Dave Rocco as well. An engagement when you pick up the phone and have that tip of the pyramid conversation, then that's a really exciting moment when everybody can bring their expertise together to make something special happen.
Yeah, there's varying degrees of volume, like when we communicate. So there's the consistent low volume exchange, then there's the medium, the priorities, then there's we need to be screamed at sometimes, like you need to pay attention to this is going to be massive, and we really believe in it. We're going to throw a lot behind this. And I want to just back up to catalog. This goes for all different types of music. This isn't just a new release panel. This is about curation of all different types of music. So don't forget your catalog. Your favorite coffee house playlist was invented with the idea that it was placing a person in a context, naming it that, putting a nice picture on it, giving it a good description, but then it was all made up of artists that at the time we hadn't really heard of, and then going and digging in to the catalog, not based on what had the most streams, but based on what was most pertinent to the playlist. And it literally reignited and restarted people that had given up on their careers or songs that nobody had ever believed on because of ego and conjecture at a label. That is a super important kind of exchange of information too. And speaking of the coffee house stuff, use the platform smart, intelligently. You know that we have lots of different use cases. Acoustic music is one of them that's huge because we do moods and moments and we place people into the context of their